Oh man. Okay. So I understand the world's problems, basically the way the world relates to the injustices in the world. I understand that as a sort of map, a sort of model. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the worst thing about this is that I made it, right? It would be way better if somebody who was actually smart made this, or better yet, it would just be better if the entire world came together to try to understand the injustices that face us instead of whatever we have now, where a lot of people are just kind of divided. They seem to know about some injustices somewhere else, but basically we need God, which we might talk about a little bit. Now the thing is, smart people though, they miss a couple details from what I've noticed. I just watched a speaker who was talking about the great things that he did that were in fact great, but like he buys McDonald's, right? And like McDonald's relies on factory farming, and it's just like there's so much injustice. Oh my god. Which is of course where I come in, where I'm just like trying to understand a fucking single fucking thing about anything. But nonetheless, what I'm about to share with you right now is it's everything that I care about in life, pretty much. So to explain what's behind me, we can start with two dualities, and these two dualities are the sacred towards the heavens. Holy meaning separate. So these are like divine concepts in life. Below that is just the practical things of life. Very simple, right? I mean, this isn't like the smartest thing in the entire world. And by the way, I'll probably like realize that later on in the video, and I'll just be like, oh my god, like what the fuck am I even trying for? And then of course I'll just like throw everything into the river, and then just throw my phone into the river or whatever in frustration. And that's what this world creates, but not. So those are our first two big categories to understand these things. But that's the vertical plane. The horizontal plane is a little bit different. I think of this as our local community and ourselves wrapped in one, being on the left side, and on the right side, the entire culture, the wider society. So these are the two dualities, and we'll kind of see how that fits in later on. But each one of these has a couple different, what I like to think of as battlefields. On the local side, we have the battle of trying to be a community of example, leading by example in the world. And that's towards the heavens, right? Because that's more like a sacred task, I believe, which isn't necessarily practical. But of course, on the practical side of the local side, we have the primal battlefield of one's own mind and body. This is terrible. This is crucial. Just, I mean, everything, all the hardest battles in our world really do start just in our mind. And we'll get into a couple more problems with these if you're willing to watch this video. Nobody will watch this. I know that. Nobody will watch it fully for sure. I get a few views here and there, but I'm doing this for I have good reasons for doing this still. And it is an act of faith for me to continue to make videos like this. But of course, moving on to the cultural side, we have a couple battlefields as well. Let's start on the practical side of the cultural battlefields. Indirect consequences and universal norms. Those they sound kind of like separate things. That's because they kind of are. But indirect consequences, that's when you do something over on the local side. Like the example I always use is like if you buy a piece of chocolate, there's an indirect consequence that circles back to the supply chain, which happens on this wider culture. sort of section of society. And it's like, okay, like a fucking indirect consequence, right? You don't feel the consequence like you would in a local setting. And universal norms, we might touch on that a little bit later, but of course, this is like the wider society that checks and balances the smaller societies. This is why there's so much influence of the wider world just in smaller communities. Now, on a more practical side, but we're going to move towards the middle between cultural and local side, and sort of towards the practical side, which is down, but not quite fully practical. I didn't quite know where to put this, but the concept of shared humanity. The concept of shared humanity is crucial because it's a very fundamental just realization that, like, okay, fuck, I guess fine. Like, I fucking hate abortion. I hate abortion. I don't actually. I'm just mimicking somebody right now, but I fucking hate abortion, but whatever. We're all shared human beings with, like, this problem of, like, we all have a different level of context that we have received throughout our lives that led us to make these decisions. And so, fine, I understand that you're a piece of shit asshole with no fucking morals. You, I forget which side I was pretending to be, but I don't know, you baby murdering moron, right? But shared humanity is like the little sprinkle of compassion. And it's also just like it's just kind of a big concept for me. I don't quite know how to fully explain it right now. But it's just it's something that I keep in my heart, right? Shared humanity, I mean, I think it's self-explanatory. Let's go above that to the spark of divinity. This is something I heard from my favorite content creator, who just fucking disappeared, by the way. That's a whole rabbit hole. But he was a tiny creator. And he mentioned that, well, everybody kind of has a spark of divinity in them. Just like, and I don't fully know how to explain this either, but everybody has something in them that is meaningful and holy. And you can feel this when, in your best moments of life, when you're just feeling happy about people. I mean, that's it. It's fairly straightforward, that as well. But then from in between these two things is the first title. And I'll introduce you to several different titles that I've come up with. But this first title is king or sovereign or queen. And this is beautiful. Because if we think about all of society and exploitation and child exploitation and animal exploitation and just all the injustice that we are facing, who would be the king? Who would be someone that we could think of as a king? Well, it wouldn't be politicians. No, it's you. It's you and I. We are the king. And this is the highest title. Because this combines the spark of divinity and the shared humanity into what I think of. So I have a visual representation of what this means to me. And this is, by the way, this is one of the great problems with what I do here, is I try to explain things, but I can't quite explain them. I've struggled for a long time with not being able to say things in basic English. Like, rather I attach a bunch of symbolism to it, and it just becomes very convoluted. It's still a battle that I fight. But the image that I imagine is somebody wearing a beautiful white dress with a crown made out of leaves and flowers. And that is the king. That is us and everything good about us that needs to be actualized. It's as simple as that. So what I want to do right now is add some problems. So the first problem is existential, spiritual, and extreme abuse. This is me attempting to find about 6 big categories for the injustice. Okay, so bear with me, right? It might be a little bit weird, but the first of those categories is existential and spiritual abuse. We can think of, I believe it's OEA, organized and extreme abuse. This is a term I just heard about. It's basically the really, really scary and really, really horrifying abuse. And actually, that was insensitive of me to say, honestly, because it's all very, very scary. But this pertains to like cults and stuff. And I know this is a fucking horrifying way to start this. But we could think of this as its own category of injustice in the world. But the next category of the six is environmental and animal exploitation. I wrapped them into both. I originally didn't quite want to wrap them both into one because it almost feels like two separate things, like factory farming and, like just fucking, I mean, I guess regular farming, just whatever practice man needs to do to get shit done on Earth that isn't related to animals. So it almost feels separate. But I'm going to link them together because I'm going to say that I'm going to assume that the majority of the world, the majority of the world's going to agree that I put them together. And that's what I'm trying to aim to do here, is be inclusive to the different sensibilities of the world, which I hate doing, by the way, because what I believe is correct, right? Like, are you fucking stupid? Obviously, what I believe is correct. So I have to set aside what I know to be correct. This is the great challenge, my friends. If you haven't noticed so far, the wars that we fight, it's kind of multifaceted. It's not just, like, what I'm trying to say here is, like, it's not just stopping a pedophile, right? It's like, it's so much more, and it's even all this shit that goes on inside of oneself where you're just, like, thinking about all kinds of shit and justifying all kinds of shit. But the final big problem on the cultural side of things is economic and systemic exploitation. This is a classic. We all know about this one. I mean, what more do you need to say? Let's see. Do I have a list? I don't have a list. But, think of prisons, right? Think of the way that people get trapped in poverty. All of these big systemic problems. Fairly self-explanatory. But let's start introducing pillars, what I think of as pillars, to the battlefield here. Now, I'm not quite sure where to put this one. I'm sure about a couple of things, but not everything I fully understand. Of course, I would love criticism and everything. But we have technology. What I'm going to do is put it in the pretty far down. Of course, it is rooted in, like, technological understanding of the world. So it's not super holy, it's not super, like, spiritual or anything. It's just fucking technology. But the thing about technology is it's wide reaching, and it's almost just, it could almost just be an entire box itself, because it reaches so far into the different aspects of life. It reaches into the local community, and it affects us. Of course, my first thing I'm thinking of is phones. I just saw a kid in my community with a phone. That's, it stresses me out, right, deeply, because I'm aware of the risks. So that's a conversation that needs to be had. But of course, we have technology. I will say technology has a huge potential to make or break reality. It could change everything. Like, we could invent something that just destroys us, or really just completely ends exploitation. I don't know. I mean, it's a very big topic that I can't quite cover right here. But let's add another pillar to the cultural, societal side of things, and that would be, of course, supply chains. And supply chains, it's going to go pretty low down as well, because it's, very practical thing. And this is what I meant by indirect consequences. This is kind of a big thing. It was bigger than I originally thought, for sure. And of course, it bleeds into the systemic problems, which also bleeds into environmental and animal exploitation. So it's definitely a pillar of the cultural side of things. This is the shit that everybody ignores. Everybody on Earth, like, oh my god, not everybody. Basically, everyone just we have this way that we go about of life where I have my duties, I have my shit that needs to get done in life, my work, my job. And so what happens is people go fully into this. This is one of the great problems, I believe. Is people just they trample over fields and flowers to get to their desired job. Like they would step like just trudge through an entire field of flowers, just plow them down with a mower if it meant just getting to work on time. Like, you can't disturb my schedule. And so it's this kind of thinking which I do hate, right? This fast-paced grind set thinking that allows people to forget things like supply chains. Very horrible. With the things that I'm trying to build, with the things that I talk about, I try to bring awareness to these things that are just unknown, largely. But let's throw up another pillar, and that would be the good old government. Where do we position them? Because maybe so this is the thing about government and technology, right? They and I guess NGOs as well is they have so much potential. They're such big things in our society. They could almost inch towards being on the sacred side of things. Sorry, I had some technical problems there, but the government's like this huge thing. Um, they don't quite represent our needs very well, but they are crucial nonetheless. Of course, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the things that I have witnessed. These are the things that I have a little bit of learning in. Oh my gosh, the way I worded that was hilarious. But of course, the government, these are the guys who should fully be equipped to handle child exploitation problems. I have an entire list of everything that's wrong with reporting child exploitation as it exists right now in life. Oh my god, we have so much shit to get done as a society. It's fucking insane. It's truly incredible to me how we have any free time whatsoever given the problems that we still haven't dealt with. But up next, let's say NGOs. So NGOs, these things are awesome because I like to think of them as the projects in this world that are more so led by passionate individuals who are filling the gaps of government. Oh man. I mean, I'm trying not to get frustrated here, but the fact that the government doesn't represent the interest of the people, it's very confusing. I mean, how many people in the United States can honestly say that the government represents them? Maybe local government, but like who really cares about that? I don't know. But finally, moving towards the sacred, so up, would be finding our people. This is a pillar. I consider this a pillar because what I've noticed is loneliness is a bit of a crisis. And the way that I understand to solve that crisis is to use the internet, right? One of the greatest tools ever. Of course, shout out to technology. Finding our people is crucial, and they come from the wider culture. This is friends, this is people to look up to. What I found is not a whole lot of luck finding really truly aligned like-minded people on the local scale, especially not my default local community. Like, no chance, right, of finding like-minded people. But what you can do is use the internet, and you can search far and wide to find your people. And moving back over to technology for a second, there's a practice, and I wanted to mention this. I wasn't quite sure how to mention it, but there's a practice called OSINT and adjacent practices where you can basically, the practice is finding shit online. crucial skill. It's gonna be a crucial skill. Is like protecting yourself online, and having control. So having control over technology. This is one of my core beliefs. This is one of my like deeply held values. Is like technology should not control us. Obviously, we should have control over technology. And so using this philosophy of like, okay, there's so many tools online, and the purpose of the internet is to find shit. So this is why OSINT, these kinds of practices are the core of what the internet is. If we're not using these practices, also, I'll get to this in a second, right? But OSINT circles back to what we're going to talk about right here, which is uh, anti-predator work, so vigilantism, which is really fun. I have a lot of insight into that. But finding our people, it's something that I put on there because it's deeply, deeply invaluable to me, right? And of course, this, again, the problem with all of this in the first place is that I made it, so I can't quite perfectly explain everything right now. I wish I had a god to help me out with that, or or just the entirety of society. I mean, one of the goals that I'm trying to do here is start a really, really big conversation about the injustices in our world, so that we can focus on these problems as a society together. And what I've really kind of leaned into is my life purpose, which it takes so much wandering around and finding different bullshit to really pinpoint, and it's still quite hard to pinpoint. But I do believe it is trying to ignite some kind of culture of awareness of these things, but not just awareness, some kind of embodiment of being like fully against this injustice, these problems. So we're on the local side, just for another couple points here. But as we were saying about God and religion, that is the next pillar, and of course that is going to be oriented a little bit higher. But the thing with religion for me is like I have a bunch of biases. They're always working in me 24/7. Goddamned biases, right? And I have a bias against Christianity, but also for the really good parts of Christianity. That's also the only religion that I really know. But of course, these things, they bring purpose. They bring a spark of life and, I suppose, like culture and just hope and like light into the world if done correctly. So I'm including them. And of course, they're deeply meaningful to so much of the population. They have to be included, I believe. So many, I mean, there's things on here that have to be included that I haven't included. I just wasn't thinking about them, right? And I've had time to think all this over. So that's yet another piece of proof that we just need more people. We just need more people thinking about this. We need more people trying to understand. Because like what I've noticed is so many people, they just go to college, they go to their NGO, they go to the fucking government, they go to like get exploited by like the college system or whatever. And I just don't understand it, because how can you focus on all of these high level things when the basics of life aren't quite met? Like, we don't even have food sovereignty in our local communities. I don't quite understand. I need more perspectives though. Like, but this might be kind of weird, but I'm gonna put up another pillar, and I call it anti-natalist values. This was a little bit more wide-reaching than I initially thought. Where should we put it? It's gonna be on the grander side of things, because it's a grandiose thought, and it's not like it's not super practical. But I mean, roughly, antinatalism is just not wanting to create new life at the risk of subjugating that new life, subjecting that new life to the potential exploitation, right? So this is like this is something that I've adopted, and it's like not choosing to create more life. but instead focus on the quality. And I'm going to represent this good. I'm not going to represent like the hated sides of these things. I'm going to try not to. But not creating new life if possible, right? But instead focusing on the quality of our lives. We have enough kids in the world who are at risk of exploitation. We need to focus on them. We don't necessarily need new children. But of course, there is a. I'm going to talk about people, like individual kinds of people in a second. One of them is like the father and like the mother. These kinds of people, they would be on the local side, but they're going to be like anti this, right? You can kind of see they're on complete opposite. They'd be on complete opposite ends of the board here. But like, this is something that I've come to naturally really appreciate. One of my actually my favorite song is sort of on the anti-natalist side of things, where it's like talking about. And of course my favorite song would be about like the end of all exploitation, right? Of course, like right, but that's kind of what it's about to me. And it's like it's about when all that's left is just the stars. And so it's a very big way of thinking. And I love it, right? I love it. Like I'm wondering if I should just take a vow to just never have kids because of it. It's something that carries high risk of basically like destroying your faith in life, but it can also be empowering if very very carefully, in my experience, integrated into your soul. These kinds of things start to touch on like the deep sadness that I felt in life. But I'll move on from that from now. And let's transition to the local side of things. And let's add up 3 more problems to the board of our model. And the first of which would be physical, bodily exploitation. That's going to be, of course, towards the sensory and physical reality. Let's see. Not quite sure where that would fall, but let's put it here for now. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's just physical pain that is caused to somebody. It would be on the lower side of things in the primal battlefield sort of section. I know it's a little bit different though because it's like a harm that's inflicted, but it's it's not super sophisticated. It's just like that first one, existential abuse, but this one's just it's terrible and it causes pain, and it's traumatic. They're all traumatic. Life is terrible. It's not actually terrible. We're gonna do something about it. My life mission here is to spark a revolution. But the next category is cognitive, technical, digital. This is when children get exploited by technology. Let's put it in the middle, closer to tech. This one's tragic. This is a great one that I have a personal experience with. I've definitely been abused this way a handful of times. I've also, I used to be very involved in the culture of basically like a very evil online culture. That is sort of part of this category, but also we could think on a more common understanding of life, just children being groomed by pedophiles on like fucking Roblox or whatever, right? God, yeah, no, right. The fact that this shit is happening, like under our noses, this is why like I'm calling for a revolution with this video. It's heartbreaking. It's distracting. It's fucking distracting. If this shit doesn't break your heart deeply, like it doesn't always break my heart right away. What it does is like I just end up fucking processing it for a while, and then I just fucking almost break down. I used to break down a lot more. But of course, like I went to a better environment, which is on the local side of things, trying to cultivate that environment. That's what local embodies, which is what we're on right now, talking about that. We're going to move away from culture as we talk about a couple more things. But yeah, local is environment. The cultivation of an environment that doesn't fucking spike your misery and cortisol levels. Now the last category here, the sixth one, is I guess what I'm calling tribal exploitation. This is the familial exploitation. Let's put it a little bit above the physical exploitation. But yeah, fairly self-explanatory. This is when your local community abuses you and exploits the most fundamental trust that a person deserves. Yeah, I mean the example that I'm thinking of is being sold into. I mean, when your parents traffic you, right? Not you. I don't know if that happened to you, but it does happen to some people, and I should have given a trigger warning. Probably put it in the title or something. But this is completely tragic. But let's add a couple pillars to the local side of things. The first of which is microculture. This is huge. We're starting with a really big one. Now I'm gonna put this right at the top with a little bit of it poking into the divine side of things. It probably should just be in there, right? But basically, microculture is what I am trying to build and is what I have experienced sort of in several different communities. This is the combination of self, values, and the tribal community. When they come together to form like a little microclimate of a small kind of culture. I'm trying to cultivate a very beautiful one. Like that's just what I want. Is like I want to find my people, like we talked about, and I just want to live a great life just in full devotion to like values, and the values of which hopefully they're integrated. So we might talk about like spiral dynamic different sensibilities, right? If you've heard of that. And it's basically just different ways of thinking. But with our values, we try to embody a more integrated way of thinking, a more bigger picture way of thinking. Under values as well is having a hierarchical value system. For me, that's just trying to make sense of complexities by like having a way to prioritize values to hold, and a way to prioritize problems in the world, like prioritize which problems to solve. So priority values, as I'm defining this, right? And I just wrote this today. I'm still trying to think through this, so bear with me. It's universal across the wider culture. So for example, like a this basic groundwork value, the priority value, I suppose, would be low harm participation in life, right? So just try to move through the world doing no harm. For me, I would take that a step further, to embody a conviction value is what I'm calling it. And that's like the little personal voice in your head that like tells you what you probably should or shouldn't do. And that would be going 50 extra steps to not cause any harm whatsoever, not eating any sugar, no snacks, right? Doing this with people in radical sacrifice culture. So yeah, I know it sounds kind of intense, but that's sort of like a groundwork value, which is sort of like a priority value, and then sort of my addition to it as I attempt to create a value system that makes sense of the complexity of the world and also like really improves the world. But yeah, moving on for the values of the microculture. The one, just empathy for all sentient creatures, right? Taking action, doing all that we can do, even like the small things, in the face of like an impossibly evil world, right, that we're facing right now. radical no harm living. Also beauty, light pollution. So protecting against light pollution to preserve the beauty of the night sky. And just using beautiful architecture. Those are my examples for beauty. So those are the values. And of course, the self, embodying those, the actualized, developed self, purposeful, right? Acting in conviction, embodying those, but also the tribe, which festers greatness, kind of. Like if we had a community in this like theoretical microculture, and well, it's not theoretical, right? There's this is kind of how it is. Like when you have a group of people who are just devoted to values, kind of like living, and then like they help each other. So the greatness and joy festers, from what I've noticed and what I believe. We also hold each other to standards. This is crucial because in the modern day, it's just there's like an unspoken contract of like, whatever, like participate in whatever systems you want, participate in college, buy candy at the store. There's no fucking concept because I don't really care. I don't want to try too hard either. So you can do that. It's the unspoken contract of like mediocrity basically. But also preserving culture. This is crucial. Just like keeping it alive, right? It's like what the group can do versus just the individual. And finally, just being a beacon of inspiration into the world. Which, actually, funny enough, that sentence alone describes the entire left half of the board, the local side. It's just being a powerful inspiration to the rest of the world. And of course, there's all these horrifying problems that we're running into, which I have put in bright red because it's just like a bloody mess of hell. That's how I think of it. But yeah, so that's that. That's the microculture. Next is ownership and responsibility. Where should we put that? You know what? You know what we'll do? We might put it in between cultural and local, but still, actually no. But let's put it close. But let's keep it on the local side. By the way, if you're watching this as a video, I don't expect you to be able to see this and understand it. I know that like the picture quality is really low and everything, so I'm trying to talk about it rather than actually have you like look at the video, right? Ownership and responsibility, I can't stress enough how crucial this is. I have struggled deeply. I wandered the mountains in search of I've written so many letters to people in search of one thing, and that thing is ownership. We are deprived of this in our world. Like we're fucking completely deprived of it. Yeah, I mean, I can feel myself getting closer to ownership, which is incredibly empowering. But largely, it's like you have to fucking claw tooth and nail. Nobody feels like they can afford a home. Oh, I guess that's the ownership side, though. I've struggled so deeply with that. We are people for our local community. To be a beacon of hope, we need to embody space, and we need to be able to be there comfortably, right? Like I'm putting my fucking flag in the ground right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna pay rent my entire life, right? Because I'm gonna work hard my entire life, but I'm not gonna participate in like a system where I just don't have any stake. I don't have any ownership. I don't have any feeling of responsibility, which is like the responsibility part of it, which is feeling a responsibility for it can extend to the cultural level, which is great. If you embody that's great. I try to embody a responsibility for the whole earth, which helps me temporarily get over the lack of ownership problem. But we do need ownership we need to feel responsibility over our local areas. There's a culture they consider, I forget which culture it is, but they consider, with every choice they do, they consider 7 generations down the line. That's how we need to be. In fact, what we need to do, right, is just draw all the best things from all the best cultures somehow into some kind of coherent way and create the microculture is what I've been calling it. Let's see what's next. I mean, this is kind of related, but the next pillar is resource abundance. That's going to be on practical though. And I did mention this. Okay, imagine if there were fruit trees everywhere. Imagine if there were permaculture forests everywhere. We're missing this. We just have like the big old monoculture farms that are like I guess even monoculture farms aren't quite monocultures because like even the soil ecosystem is still like a, there's a lot of different parts in it, but that's completely off topic, by the way. But no, in order to create a beautiful world, like this is understood by a lot of people. In order to have a beautiful world, we are going to need resource abundance and resource sovereignty. It's so straightforward, isn't it? Like every community should be self-reliant while also drawing checks and balances from the wider culture. In fact, I haven't mentioned that yet. All the components on this model, absolutely all of them, they check and balance all the other parts. So we have like 4 dualities here. But within that, we also just have like a cycle, like an ecosystem of checks and balances. And I find this to be so beautiful, and we'll get into a couple of those. But yeah, I mean, everything just checks and balances each other. The local, I guess, never mind. I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that more later. We need our own independence. We need our own resources, so that we don't have to rely on supply chains. Supply chains is the opposite of resource abundance. Straightforward. Another pillar is personal conviction. It goes pretty high up on the local side. And I already talked a lot about this. But there's a little voice in our heads that helps us in our day-to-day lives to like make the right choice. So it's not like the voice of purpose, the deep purpose in ourselves. It's just like the fucking boring, practical little day-to-day choices that make you more ethical. And it's super boring, personal conviction. Actually, no. It can be more exciting, especially with Christianity, which is why I do enjoy Christianity. It taught me this word in the first place. But those kinds of religions, they teach us that, like, there's a little voice telling you to do the right thing. And of course, it's perverted in Christianity, and like fuck religion, and like fuck everybody who doesn't agree with me, right? Like, I'm telling you, this is the problem with life. Is like we're all just so selfish. Oh man, we have to listen to the voice, because if we shut it out, we become numb, and we become disassociated from our actions. And of course, indirect consequences. It starts to get into that battlefield. Terrible. Please help me normalize a new approach to the world where conviction, it goes forefront. Like we hold it in our hands 24/7. Please help me build a world full of that. Moving on. Sovereignty, that goes right next to resource abundance. Same thing. They almost should have been the same thing, but sovereignty, this is a community with its own essentially balances against like the tyrannical culture of like government and cultural shit, right? Communities deserve to have enough independence to break away from the status quo if the status quo is harmful. This is the thing, is like it's widely accepted by like, I guess, just average people that like whatever's popular is okay, which isn't quite true. This is why communities need sovereignty. And also, since everybody has different sensibilities and different views anyway, like we need this. But again, as we've been saying, like we need the balance to come from the wider culture to make sure that we're not creating like an insulated, like tyrannical community. It's just an act of balance. That's all this is. It's just balance and duality. It sounds spiritual, but it's like I'm not a very spiritual person, but I do believe in like the concept of like balance and duality. Not spiritual at all, though, really. I've observed those kinds of things. But let's talk about another pillar. And this is the embodied self. Let's finally put it in the sacred local category. In the battlefield of community and self of example. I have some notes on this. The sovereign, the king, as we put in the very center. This is the king. The integrated warrior of the anti-evil culture and revolution. Caring, and so these are the points, right? There's about 7 points. And the first of which is caring and knowing vaguely about basically every problem in the world. A general awareness. This is where the integration comes in. The yellow or turquoise sensibility, like if you've seen the integral theory model. So every problem matters. Every last one of them. There must be a hierarchy, as we kind of went over, I believe. But every problem matters. The second point is deep personal conviction and purpose and a devotion to this. This is the ideal self that I'm talking about. This is my ideal self. I would be surprised if you didn't share a lot of these characteristics. It's because we all share this on some level. Man, I really recognize the things that are missing in life, and I just want to talk about them. I want to get this information out there. Like I know that people are going to share this with me. So devotion to it. The third point is trauma, using that trauma to end cycles, not perpetuate them, or quietly repeat them in silence. So a very processed person. Everybody has trauma from what I've seen. I discovered this kind of recently, I guess. I'm young. I'm like 22 now. But everyone has trauma. Everybody, every single person in any room is traumatized, unfortunately. So the goal now is to process it like a Batman. You know, he uses his power for good in a really beautiful way, actually. Whereas the Joker is just kind of like nihilistic. The fourth point is caring equally about true values and their correlating challenges. So this is when like we witness something beautiful, technological, or holy, some kind of beautiful thing that exists in this world, and we just love it. We just fucking love it. It's just like it's enjoying like some kind of beautiful picnic food. It's enjoying anything. It's enjoying a car. It's enjoying chocolate. It's enjoying anything whatsoever without caring about the adjacent problem that threatens it. This is very universal and wide-reaching, so I don't need to go into too many details, but everything has a challenge correlated with it. I was thinking, and I was like, how would I define foolishness? I would define foolishness maybe as just caring about great things without even caring about the subsequent, the underlying evil in the world that is behind it. The next point is not partaking in injustice on a local or cultural level. I have set my mind and my will, right? This is going to be a really hard thing to do in our lifetime because, of course, we have that systemic exploitation, which has its little claws in everything. It's like even if you go to the store, you buy something unethical or whatever, right? Living by virtues and values always. That's the hardest part about it, is like living by virtues always instead of like most of the time or sometimes. But that's sacrifice, which is a crucial key word here for the embodied self. Sacrifice. A designated lane of work integrated into the whole. So we all have unique talents, which is what we're going to get into soon. But it needs to be integrated into the whole. And yeah, I mean, if that's not beautiful and inspiring, I don't know what is. Like, if there's one thing that I really know in life, it's that we all have some kind of purpose. Like everybody. Like even people who don't think that they could ever possibly have a purpose, like even they have a purpose. You know what I mean? Because quite frankly, like these injustices in the world, they affect all of us. And it's just It's just a shadow. I mean, like, look at the visual of this board. Like, do you see the red? Like, you can't like unsee it. Like, you might be able to get rid of it if you squint or something. But like, it's just red. It's a bloody stain on our life. So the final point about the embodied self, which I just put up there, yeah, is deserving a crown. The crown of leaves and flowers, as I've mentioned, for doing the sacred work of like converting trauma and like just being a balanced person who cares deeply, right? Deserving that crown, but then just kind of denying it anyway to continue the great work. It's a very Christ-like principle. This is what I want to be. This is entirely my ideal that I've just set forward here. Very, very important to me. But the next pillar is parallel systems. And this is what the community serves to be and stands to like be in the face of the wider culture is a parallel system. It's an alternative to go to when the wider system has failed you and you want to restart from the ground up. Like, you want to examine your life from the ground up, and like you want to create just a better system for human flourishing. Right? I mean, it's basically that. Really quickly though, I did want to mention, like, you would almost think that the local side should be smaller, just like a little sliver, because like we have the cultural side, which has all the different types of people and everything. But no, they're half. They're very much half, because I mean, I guess it's fairly self-explanatory. What I'm saying is the local side of things would not take up any less than half of the space on the board, because it is so crucial that we have a functioning local life, which includes ourself and like our immediate people next to us. But of course, they both matter equally from what I've found. But yeah, that's our sacred like parallel system. I guess it's not. I guess, and it's hard to figure out which side of things it'd be on in terms of the vertical. Um, but for now, we could just think of it towards the middle. It's just a parallel alternative. So in our community has all the alternative versions of every opportunity that the wider society provides. But up next is life purpose. It's going to be in the holy category on the local side. Of course, life purpose, we've talked about it. Oh man. A lot of people probably can get away with not feeling a strong sense of purpose in life. I cannot. I need a life purpose, which is what I'm trying to find when I do these things, when I put everything up on the board, when I talk relentlessly, when I journal, when all I want to do is just sit down and journal what matters most. This is an attempt to find a life purpose. I hypothesize that people could benefit a lot more from life purpose than they have been led to believe. And we do need life purpose. I was lucky to be able to discover mine in a fairly easy way, in comparison to how it could have been. If a lot of it came naturally to me, there was quite a lot of suffering, of course, and of course it encompasses so much of everything else. But I'm happy that mine came naturally. I'm One of my bigger worries in life is that it won't come naturally to a lot of people, and a lot of people will just feel like fucking meaningless and sad. And it's heartbreaking. Find your life purpose. Like, there's ways. Just like go you can create a life purpose for yourself. It doesn't necessarily have to be this thing where it just falls out of the sky. It can be from you like going into the mountains, into the ocean, and just like finding yourself or whatever, right? And of course, I would argue that we should have life purposes that are focused on all of these other elements, where we're basically trying to stop abuse in the world. We're basically trying to solve injustice. And that's what I believe should be sort of baked into our life purpose. So moving on is family. Let's put it right in the middle. Um, yeah, I mean, family, it's kind of a weird thing, but of course it is a pillar of the local life. I feel like the biggest way that families can end injustice is by just raising good people. I mean, fostering a good connection. The leaders of the family need to do this. And of course, right alongside family is, of course, the final thing that we're going to talk about. And that's tribe and village. These are the people that surround us. In my case, finding the village, finding the tribe, it's hard. I don't have loyalty to my family in the same way that other people do. But everyone needs this and everybody wants this, and absolutely crucial. Now, the people. Oh my goodness. So I've made a title for them, and also just their name. But most of them, I believe, might fall more on the cultural side. I didn't have a whole lot of great ones for the local side of things. But let's just start. Let's just start talking about them. So on the family side of things, um, we have a smaller creator who people don't really know about. His name is Tom Perez. I like him because he embodies like a masculine virtue towards ending a lot of the exploitation problems of our time. He has a podcast where he interviews all kinds of people, men and women, and he's such a compassionate person who just he talks to women, and he's just like, so as a woman, I want to hear your insight on exploitation, and he interviews everyone from this perspective of like he wants to raise, his mission is to like raise a generation of generative men who are aware of like trafficking, sex trafficking, and everything. Really great. In terms of the mother, like the mother title, so he's like the father title, but in terms of the mother title, I didn't have any really good examples. But I was thinking about like a person who we knew, Jane Goodall, who kind of is like really gentle and like nourishing with animals. And of course, I wanted to include animals in this overall discussion because like again, things get forgotten about, and animal exploitation gets forgotten about. I believe Jane Goodall was also a vegan during her lifetime. I don't know if she's still around. I don't think so. But let's just kind of jump around a little bit. Moving over to cultural, let's talk about a fun one. And this is Alex Rosen with Predator Poachers. I call him the soldier. And the soldier, it's like this it's this red sensibility where it's just like justice. It's just like justice. It's very egoic. I've heard a lot from him. I've heard him on podcasts. He is smart, so I believe he's on the smarter side of a sort of like the egoic, justice focused sensibility. But basically like round up pedophiles and like throw them in the wood chipper type of justice. There's a lot of people that believe this, but there's also a lot of people that are focused on like a different kind of justice, which we'll talk about. But Alex's method is to use technology to basically using technology and OSINT and everything to find child predators, prove them, and of course just with a complete focus on justice, just interview them, draw out from them like a confession towards their crimes. It's some of the most insane stuff you'll see online, quite honestly. It's a really interesting line of work that I am quite familiar with. One of my personal experiences with exploitation was these guys that Alex Rosen catches. So of course I have a very interesting relationship with this where I want to praise his work and him a lot, but I'm not quite sure he's rooted. He's somebody who's like not very morally consistent in a way. So he does a lot of great work, but then he's very justice and ego focused. He's definitely not more integrated like these other sensibilities, these different kinds of people. But I feel like Chris Hansen would fall in a similar position to him, except maybe up a little bit towards government is all, or like NGO or something. I don't know. But I'm kind of going in between like big examples of people and then like small ones that like I'm familiar with. So up next is Ryan Montgomery. This guy I think of as the engineer. He is making something called the Sentinel Foundation, I believe, which is just very, very, very technological. Like, I believe the sensibility might be orange. Is like very technical sensibility. Yeah, so like societies prosper through strategy, technology, and competitiveness. I don't know, but he also has different embodiments of like he very much cares about kids, but like his mind is just it's like laser focused on like developing systems and shit. So very interesting. Um, Lots of these different like we need all of these people. Like again, every problem in the world matters. There's another guy in this area called he goes by 411 Outdoors online, and he is just honestly no he should be over on the local side, right next to Tom Perez because he is his entire thing is physical preparedness, so weapons, martial arts skills against human trafficking and against like things that threaten your family unit. This is crucial. Like I wish I embodied more of this. This is like the power to defend things, to defend your people, the people who you love most. I mean, there's reasons to not quite embody that fully, but that's what he speaks about. Very beautiful type of person in the fight against exploitation. I think it's a purple sort of a worldview. He's also I think a Christian. So yeah. But Haley McNamara, so she's a very interesting person. I really love listening to the Ending Sexploitation podcast. It gets fucking no views. Like that shit's crazy. Like imagine having a podcast for talking about ending sexual exploitation. Her organization is National Center on Sexual Exploitation. But like this kind of content in life, it doesn't get a lot of views. Like it doesn't get all the attention that it needs. It's just fucking heartbreaking, right? But she's a preacher. I think of her as a preacher. She tells the world and parents about like how harmful technology is and how harmful all this technology still is, even with all this legal reform and everything. Like we still have like Snapchat, Discord, and X just being complete tyrants, right? So like we all know this, like the big platforms, yes, they're absolutely risky. If there's any doubt in your mind as a parent that the big platforms and little platforms alike aren't risky, like fucking I wish I could smack you into some kind of different embodiment of consciousness because no, I mean, you know. But Haley McNamara, she stays sort of on like a surface level where like yes, like there's pedophiles and everything like online, like obviously, right? Like this is why we have Alex Rosen. Like Alex takes it, myself and people like Alex, we take it as just like fucking fact. Like we know this shit. We don't want to argue over this anymore. Get your kids off of the goddamn internet. Put in have a philosophy of taking control over our technology once more, so that you don't get fuck so that you don't give the entire culture over here access to your local world and especially your children. What are we thinking, yo? What are we thinking? So moving on, right? I'm just kind of like rapid firing them. Actually, let's go back to direct survivors over on the local side. So direct survivors. The title is Alchemist, I believe. It's converting that trauma into a more processed version, like we've been talking about. Daniel Mackler is a creator. He's on the bigger side. He might be a little bit more. You might know him. There's a possibility. I think of him as the healer and an alchemist. His whole mission is to talk and think deeply and process, essentially, have an open public journal of processing childhood trauma. That is his mission, and it is beautiful. We need this. Everybody needs this. Absolutely crucial. Let's go back to cultural, and let's talk about somebody called Christy Burke. Christy Burke is a representative in Tennessee. Wait, actually, let's talk about. Wait, hold on. What sensibility would Daniel Mackler be? It might be the more beige sensibility, which is. Oh wait. Very limited self awareness. No. He's very self aware. I don't know. Actually, he might be moving towards the yellow and integrative side of things. But of course, like Alex Rosen's gonna be like red, and Haley McNamara, not quite sure. Maybe she's sort of green, like a communitarian, egalitarian. But as I was saying, Christie is a representative from Tennessee. I think of her as the poet, and poet is a really special title. It took me a minute to figure that one out. Poet, I think of as a legislator, somebody who writes, somebody who translates the will of the people into written law, which of course she's over here by the government. Written law that can then be used as like a firm, solid piece of groundwork which checks and balances things. So this is government in its effective form, basically. She's a very good representative. And I guess I believe that because I've seen her as a human being who makes online content. She's lesser known, of course. She's representing in Tennessee right now. She's running for office. But I watched her start out as not a politician. That's the special part. Is like she she at first spoke about like religious trauma and like healing from it. But now she's a poet. I think of as a poet translating the will of the people. She deeply respects the needs of her community. And in fact, that should be the job of every politician, is just to fucking be boring as shit and just fucking like work for the people. Like we don't need all these entertaining little politics anymore where like everybody's just entertaining. We have to like talk about Trump 24/7. No, it's just like represent the will of the people. Like what the fuck is this circus that we've created? Everybody hates it. Everybody hates our system. But maybe Christie is like purple sensibility. Like allegiance to maybe her community or something. I believe that's what that would be. But also she encompasses like a wider understanding of the abuse in our culture. Let's talk about, oh boy. All right, let's get this one over with. So I put this on here because I have experience with this, right? I have a sort of unique insight on this, and this is Klaus Bayer, who I titled as scholar. Now in Germany there is a building where and this is the complete opposite of Alex Rosen, right? In Germany there's a building, a place focused on a sort of rehabilitation or oh gosh, I'm sorry, it's been a while. I had a lot of research on this many years ago, but out of like shame and everything, I kind of decided not to think about this anymore. But giving compassion to pedophiles, pretty much people who are, well, I mean, they would say people who are experiencing pedophilic thoughts. So in society, like this entire culture, even the word pedophile, it is that is the word to describe a child predator. That is what pedophile means. But to somebody like Klaus, so this is just an example, but there's a couple different people like this. But to them, pedophile, it means the actual like scientific term or whatever, where it's like attraction to prepubescent children. Dear God, right? Like even saying it out loud is fucking horrible. No wonder we have sensibilities like Alex's. We're like wood chipper. Have you ever heard the word wood chipper thrown around online? It's just like yeah, like people want to throw uh, pedos into the wood chipper, of course, and it makes sense. Like both make sense to me, but of course it makes sense, right? But I believe this embodies a unique kind of compassion where it's like, okay, like I've studied this problem. I've studied this problem, and it's like daring bravely to march into sort of a taboo and definitely disgusting. Like it's disgusting. Like even if you offer full compassion to somebody with those kinds of thoughts, it's gonna be horrifying work because you're gonna be thinking about like God forbid like pedophilia and like child exploitation. Like it's the worst plague of our times. This is why we need to get brave and just we need to pick a lane and we need to be brave. We need to fucking get into the mud somehow if you embody any resemblance of courage to do so. There's a couple of people in this life who deserve to have more reserved positions in society where like you're not on the front lines or something, suffering 24/7 like a lot of these people. Oh god, so many people just suffer 24/7. I mean, that's just part of life, but I believe this embodies a unique kind of compassion, is what I'm saying. And the reason I care about this personally is because when I was introduced to basically a child CSAM ring, if you don't know what CSAM ring, it is the new version. It is the newly adopted word for CP, right? And it's entirely disgusting, right? But again, we're having a disgusting talk so that we can figure shit out about society, try to get some answers here. But when I was exposed to that, I just began like I was just like we need some kind of solution to stop this, and so I was just like fuck it, like what if we try to humanize them? Because I basically online there was basically an infinite population of child predators that I had access to from like 14 to 17, right? Years old I was. And so like we would just do all kinds of like things. Like we would scam them, we would dox them with like just everything this community would do. And and I was just like fuck it. Like what if we like try to talk to them and like convince and like offer some kind of compassion. And so I put together some research on it, and then I tried, but I don't want to try that anymore. That's just not my area of expertise. I still want to leave respect to the people who can deal with these kinds of problems, and like because if we think about it, there's a couple other people on this board who are going to try to target the root causes of offenders. That is part of compassion fundamentally. It may not have to be exactly like how Klaus Bayer does it, right? Or like some of these other people who would offer compassion to somebody you feel. I mean, there's been a lot of TED talks about this kind of stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be that. It's just I believe it's a unique kind of justice that I have experience with, and it's really horrifying. It's scary to talk about. Like it's sickening to talk about, which is why I'm talking about it. Is because we can do so much as a society if we just normalize the conversation about exploitation. In fact, I'm gonna lead the way here. Let's normalize talking about like uh this, like giving compassion to pedophiles, pretty much. So this I don't know what sensibility this might be. Maybe on the more integrated side of things, but still like these different people, they've recognized a problem that just kind of spoke to them for whatever reason. And me, I felt this on multiple occasions. I never really stuck with a lot of the things that initially spoke to me, but that's just what human beings do. So trying to leave compassion for everybody here. Really, really horrifying conversation. Thank you for dealing with this with me. I mean, holy shit. But let's move on to Brian Stevenson. I just found out this person. This is somebody I think of as a representative. Brian Stevenson, like Klaus Bayer, sort of sits with criminals and tries to represent them. Uh, you know, Klaus kind of like it's like a more rehabilitation, like very medical focused, um, academic pursuit, I guess. But Brian is sitting with the downtrodden, so criminals from disenfranchised communities, essentially. Um, Communities, uh, areas of population that are just, they're at risk in a way. They're not they're poor, so poorer folks. So he sits with the downtrodden, the weak, and he is a lawyer and he represents them in court. And this is beautiful. We need representatives. This is like one of the most Christ-like principles on here, I believe. Maybe it should be higher up, honestly, because of that principle. But he doesn't speak about divine things. Again, it's hard, right? It's hard to know how to sort all these things. I guess I just mainly want to talk about all of these different subjects. This is crucial. This is crucial, but he too he too gives compassion to people who are outcasts. And so this for me begs the question: at what point do we draw the line of compassion? Where truly is the line of compassion, and why? Is it harming children? Okay, maybe. I'm good with that. I think I'm good with that. That's the cultural understanding. But nonetheless, things slip through the cracks, right? So they're again even on the economic and systemic type of exploitation, those things slip through the cracks. So tragically, not every last human being is on the same page here. Let's move on to Andrew Harvey. I think of him as an eye-opener. He's lesser known. You're not going to know him, but he invented a concept called sacred activism, which combines the divinity of life up here, right, and activism, everything down here, the actions that we take in day-to-day life to try to make things better, combining them into sacred activism. Beautiful concept. I love this. I love people who just like come together and just like make concepts, just like make words, that's what I'm doing here. It's just I'm having fun. Like, I'm trying to understand things. I'm trying to communicate to others and myself what I believe in. And this is beautiful. But opening our eyes to just kind of blind spots is what I think of his work as. It's like, we don't need to be so hyper focused on activism, right? I mean, it needs to be sacred. It needs to be balanced in duality. And the concept of duality, I think of as kind of sacred. So of course I put him higher up. Yeah, this is a lot of information. I'm not quite sure how much of it makes a whole lot of sense. But let's talk about the adventurer right here. The adventurer is an interesting one because we all have talents and we all have just shit that we love. And I don't have an exact example for the adventurer, but we all have things that we just love in life. Like, really love to do, like whether it's hiking or cooking, walking, I guess that's hiking, biking, just any kind of activity whatsoever. The adventurer finds a way to incorporate that into the anti-exploitation culture and movement. The best example that I have of this, the most mainstream example, is when people raise money for charity by hiking up a mountain or something, or like biking for kids with cancer, like those kinds of causes. I'm hoping to be able to do something like that. I originally thought it was like kind of like silly, how would riding your bike correlate to like helping protect young people? But actually, it's not that actually causes the helping of people. It's not like riding your bike that's going to save the world. It's living your normal life. So it's so integrated. I believe this embodies like a higher sensibility in a way, or maybe just like I believe that it embodies the beige sensibility, which is just like survival. So just like survival, trying to have like a good life, right? but it combines it with like a way over on the other side of the spectrum, like a higher integrated sensibility, which I find to be really unique. But it's enjoying your normal life to draw attention to causes that matter, which is just amazing. Like, we all have gifts and we all have things that we love. So this, I believe, is like a more reserved. It's not a front lines type of person. Alex Rosen, police, they're front lines. This is not. This is on the other side, where it's just, it's soul, it's beauty. It's like, I love doing this. Why not just do it for some kind of good cause? Like, put that like context behind it. And this, I believe, embodies like culture. Like, this is what the culture would look like, is the adventurer who just like lives normally, but for protecting life and people. And there's multiple ways to be an adventurer. In my case, I've actually been the adventurer a few different times in some different ways, where I like to travel, right? So travel can be a big part of it. Travel to, be in different safer communities focused on removing or not removing, but like fighting certain exploitation in the world, right? That kind of thing. But yeah, I'm very happy to be making progress in my own personal life for this local side of things. It's definitely making progress on that. One day I would like to have a perfect community that meets all my needs. But I'm to the point in life where I don't want to be part of any exploitation ever. Like, I almost just want to retreat into the woods and just be a hermit or something like that, like a monk or something like. And that kind of thought hits me often. It's just, it's so hard. It's so hard. Because even if you're in like the best community, you're still going to the store or something, or participating in, even using the internet. It relies on so much infrastructure. But like, what are we going to do? Just not use the internet? This circles back to what we talked about way earlier in the video, where human beings are they're just bowling balls just rolling. And it's just like, I gotta get to my job. I gotta do shit. Like, what am I gonna do? Just not have this technology yet? Like, to be fair, we do, in the cultural side of things, we do rely on so many different engineers and people throughout the supply chain to basically have it in their heart to not abuse the earth or people too much. We can think of human trafficking abroad, the kinds of things that are behind sugar production. Let's actually jump over for a second to Easton J. Thompson, who is an artist. I believe he embodies red, justice focused. He is an artist, though, which I have chosen to put on the local side of things, because, and I didn't have the best reason to do that, honestly. This could just as easily have gone on the cultural side, but an artist is a beautiful type of person. It's different from the adventurer in that Easton, he's writing a book called Song of the Broken. And the core of the book, the underlying theme, it's like a beautiful fantasy book. So it's art, right? It's beautiful. But the underlying theme is bringing justice to child predators. So, amazing. I want to buy the book. I might. Yeah. But justice is kind of like the red sensibility of, yeah, just like bringing justice. Let's jump all the way over to Peter Singer. Peter Singer is a very interesting person because he's basically just like, ordinary people are kind of pieces of shit. And the reason that they're kind of pieces of shit is because they don't by default donate their money to charity. So I believe he created like a program where like you can pledge, like if you're a more wealthy kind of person, you can pledge to donate for your entire life a certain percentage of your money to charity. Because his whole philosophy is like, well, we have established charities. We have shit that works. Like, we have the Against Malaria Foundation. It fucking works. So why aren't we by default giving money to charity instead of like when we feel like it? Like, it's a harsh type of thing that like people don't want to hear. Is like, but it makes sense, right? If you have excess, why aren't you giving it to people? And it is the taboo of that idea. It's the fact that that idea is not widely adopted that I consider him, and I titled him a philosopher above everything else. Because, yeah, I mean, it's a hopeful idea, but like not everyone embodies it, and it's tragic. But it makes perfect sense. It's like, if we have more, why do we not spill over into other people's cups? We have charity again. We have charities that are firmly like effective, like widely understood to be effective. Why isn't your money in their pockets? Like, what good reason could you possibly have to hold on and like be greedy? I guess I don't know. Maybe self-preservation, but like I would argue like fuck self-preservation. Like we're fighting a great war here. The title of this map that we're looking at right now is The War Against Exploitation, Our Great Shared Work. This is our great shared work. This is, I used to think of it as like the Great War. But those were the people. And I'm still working on the list. Again, it's challenging because I wanted to start this. I wanted this all to be perfect, but that's not going to be the case. This is to start a conversation. So what we have now is 4 different challenges correlating to each different battlefield. So let's just go in order. The battlefield of being a community and a person leading by example in the world. This battlefield faces the challenge of isolation. So not finding enough people who really meet you to create the shared culture with, to solve the great problems of our time. This is one of the biggest problems I'm facing right now. It's so fucking hard to meet people, but again, we have the internet. It needs to happen. I mean, isolation. Like, we think of the loneliness crisis that we are experiencing right now. That's what this is. But moving on from that, what would be the challenge of the battlefield of one's own mind and body? Like the primal, just like survival, beige sensibility. What's the challenge there? It's justifications. It's justifications, because think about it. Every single day, you fight your own brain to justify doing something wrong. This is the great challenge for somebody like me, for example. Justifications for doing something that you probably shouldn't, or just justifications for inaction. And of course, what I'm trying to inspire here is like action, just like full radical affirmation of taking all this responsibility onto us and just taking action like consistently. I guess looking at this right now, I'm just thinking of like the physical pain that a lot of people in life run into. So this isn't the full truth, but this is something that I've observed as like a core deep problem and on this front, on this battlefield against exploitation. It's just justifications, just your mind saying like, oh, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be great. You don't have to embody your values necessarily. You can do whatever you want. I believe this is a great problem. So that's the local side, the 2 challenges that I believe challenge our local communities in those 2 respective battlefields. But over here, limited attention would be the challenge of the indirect consequences battlefield. Limited attention because, well, it's on the cultural side, right? So how can you expect an individual to have enough bandwidth in their brain to be able to focus on all the problems of our time? It's impossible. It's not realistic. And then circling back, like, Everything has exploitation behind it, even using the internet right now. So at what point do you draw the line? That is the battle. That is the challenge here that I'm putting forward. That everybody already knows, actually, but takes me a while to learn things, apparently. Limited attention. We don't have enough brain power to focus on all the supply chains necessarily. We don't have enough brain power to just focus on all the different norms in life that we need to pay attention to. So many of us, we're over here, we're focusing on our life, right? Like, we're focusing on our community. And this also, funny enough, can be a justification, like, over here. So this can translate over here to be a justification for, like, inaction. But limited attention, it's a problem. So it's a challenge. Above that, in the battlefield, I guess I didn't initially say the fourth. I didn't. Oh goodness. Okay. I did not say the fourth and final battlefield. And this, I didn't say the name of it. This battlefield is the divided and grand scale of abuse. Keyword divided, right? So that means not everybody in the world has to take on the weight of every problem, like we just said. So thank God for that. I tried to for so long. That shit fucking traumatized me. I'm still trying to process the pain of trying to take on the whole weight of the world. But I guess these two things are about, like, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? It all works together. But the challenge that this battlefield faces is unknown evil. This scares me. Above all other things, like, this is what shakes my soul a little bit. Is the fact that there's something in the world that's just kind of, like, strange. Right? And, like, I don't know if it's demons, I don't know if it's Satan. I don't know about the reality of those things. Of course, I'm leaving room for these things to exist because I don't know. I embody over here the student of hope, right? So this is actually I didn't talk about this one, but the student of hope is somebody who tries to learn a fucking thing about anything, who just basically, doesn't go to college, but instead, like, goes to the school of, like, thinking and philosophy and, like, trying to look at the whole world, going on the personal development journey, living, like, the life of just somebody who's trying to become that embodied self. That's me. This is who I believe myself to be. The student of hope. And when we think about unknown evil, the fact that there's, like, somebody suffering less than 1,000 miles from you in the most cruel way possible. And there's even more suffering everywhere else. There's, like, cancer everywhere. But imagine, like, somebody being kidnapped and, I guess, tortured. Very horrible, very traumatizing. I'm sorry I even said that. Shit. I mean, this is hard. This is fundamentally is hard. All of it is. But that is the problem of unknown evil versus known evil, which is, like, systemic or whatever. But there's something in the world that we will never hear about. And I guess I was just thinking about the tomb of the fallen soldier, that kind of memorial, which is, like, guarded with great discipline and great honor, because it's, like, the unknown soldier. So that's what we could think of this as, for symbolism, is the tomb of the unknown soldier. There's somebody in life who was stolen from life by a predator or by something extraterrestrial, something different, something spiritual, and was tortured deeply by it. And we will never know the extent of that suffering, and it's just a complete injustice. And if you think about it long enough, you will fall down crying. And this is like the true horror of life. Very, very difficult subject to discuss. But of course, these are the kinds of things that I've spent my years being plagued by. Is like, how can I get over the fact that this happened in life? I can't get over that. Like, you should be able to get over that, but for some reason I just can't. It's like, wait, that's a complete injustice. How the fuck am I supposed to just ignore that? Like, I know I'm powerless in the face of it, but no, you're not. We live in an interconnected world. We live in a world where, like I said, we could be less than 1,000 miles from somebody who's suffering in complete darkness. And we have understandings. We have all these different sensibilities. This is the job of mankind, is to use our gifts and our sensibilities in an integrated way to end exploitation as we know it, to find people who suffer in true darkness. I was journaling extensively over the past months, and I was thinking, like, what can be the outward work that you put into the world? Once you've figured out yourself, what is it that you can then give to the world? And I was thinking, well, broadly, it's trying to find people who are in the darkest places, the people in unknown evil, who need our help entirely, who don't even so much as have a voice to ask for help. This is why I appreciate organizations to fight human trafficking. This is why I appreciate law enforcement for finding the worst monsters in the world. Not a fun discussion, is it? I tried to make it fun in a couple ways, but it's just fundamentally like a horrifying discussion. And I do apologize for the pain that has been caused, but I wouldn't make this video if I didn't think something great could come from it. Like, simply put. But now let's talk about what culture, the wider culture, and the local culture can get from each other. So let's start at the top, towards the divine. From the smaller culture, from the local community, the wider culture can draw something from it, and that is the puzzle piece of inspiration. So the local community over here can serve as a beacon, like we've been saying, of inspiration to then echo throughout the wider culture to inspire people, basically. And this is in the sacred category, because to inspire people is not really practical in a way, at least not in comparison to what we'll talk about in a second on the lower physical end of things. But it's crucial. It's crucial to have places that you can look to in the world that are inspiring. I mean, think of houseboat communities and just these floating island projects and just all these different villages in the world. All these beautiful places and beautiful people, quite honestly, right? Just, again, like everybody on this list is a puzzle piece of inspiration. Every community, every inspiring like land project that you've seen and like you're just like, wow, I wish I could live that way. That's what this is. But what can the local side draw from the cultural side? That would be stories, I believe. So hearing stories, absolutely crucial to life. I figured this out, and it's just the way my brain works is funny, because it's like I learned this a few years ago. It's like, okay, well, we need to hear stories from like survivors of abuse, right? We have to be trauma informed, I guess. Hearing stories from the wider world informs us as we create a beacon of hope. It informs us, and it gives us crucial knowledge of like, this is how people suffer, this is how we can change it. And also just hearing people is like, I think of listening as like the ultimate skill. Is like, I try to listen first in conversation instead of talk first. So yeah. Hearing stories. Now, on the practical side of things, what can the wider culture get from our local culture? Well, again, sort of like a beacon of inspiration, but for having a safe and no harm contribution to the world. This isn't all encompassing. None of it really is. Some of it is. Some of the content that I've outlaid for us here is all encompassing, like it is like really truly universal. Not everything is though. Again, the problem with this model is that I made it and not somebody smart. I might be smart morally though in a couple ways. I can only hope so, but it's probably best to exercise like humility in that regard as well. Like I don't want to say that I'm smart morally, I guess. But this local world, it sets the groundwork. It sets like a standard for how we ought to live if we embody sovereignty and resource abundance. Is like we have our own food, we have our own things. We're living by example. Like we're we're a good thing to look up to, right? We are safe and we are not hurting the world. And that's what the culture, the society, like that's what the society can learn from just individual communities that have figured things out, quite honestly. There's a lot of them out there. Of course things need to be better, but that's sort of that. What can what can local culture get from bigger culture? Purpose and checks and balances. They're different things. Those things are different, right? Purpose and balance. But let's go over purpose first. Of course, the smaller culture it's beautiful on its own, but it also needs to fit into the wider culture. Like there's no reason to have this if we can't perpetuate it throughout society and like be a beacon of hope, I believe. I mean, I'm thinking of like the Amish. I'm just thinking of these different kinds of smaller cultures in a way that serve as, they their purpose is to kind of fit into the wider culture. Actually, maybe not Amish. Maybe that's not the purpose of the Amish. But in my case, it would be fitting into the wider culture because we need to reform culture as well. We need to reform society. Like this is a fucking revolution at this point, you know. That's what I've talked about so much with my videos. It's just like how can we start a peaceful revolution? This is kind of that. But the other side of this is like checks and balances. We already kind of talked about this, but if we have a local community over here, we don't want them to have full control over situations. And what I mean by this is think of all the religious communities who are very kind of insular and like they investigate themselves when an allegation of like child sexual assault pops up, right? We can't have this. We need to have some kind of like, well, ideally, right? We should have some kind of government organization that does monitor like local communities. And I know that sounds weird. Like it sounds contradictory to people who are just like, well, fuck the surveillance state and everything, which makes sense. Both are righteous and perfectly true values. This is the problem. It's like abortion and non-abortion and gun control and non-gun control. But it's like the point here is to like prevent abuse at whatever cost. So, I mean, we can hate organizations like Child Protective Services because they're flawed, obviously, but we need a functioning version of Child Protective Services where every community in the world is balanced and there's a safe like abuse first mindset in every community in the world. Like I picture like a community where just every single place is a safe place, pretty much. I know it's ideal. I know it's incredibly like unrealistic. Nonetheless, I hope for it though, and I write about it confidently as something I really want. I'm never gonna stop dreaming and hoping. But this is basically addressing like that tribal and like psychological and familial exploitation. Very crucial to understand that. But like I said, everything should sort of check and balance each other. Like even the categories, like the divine, the holy purpose of life, it should be checking the practical so that we don't get stuck in practical ways of thinking like how Andrew Harvey thinks, or like we should be fully focused on practical action, but for a higher cause. And like that's the integration of it. That's the beauty of it. And this is stuff that you already know to some extent. All of this stuff is stuff that you already know, but nonetheless, I learn it and I excitedly talk about it because I mean, like, what else am I gonna fucking talk about? Like sports, like. But that is the gist of what I wanted to tell you about. I've been thinking deeply about all of this. I'm really hoping that something can come from this because I find myself just wanting to be like Alex Rosen, just have that technological discipline to just bring justice, just get a kill count, so to speak, of like child predators. But as I realize things, I realize that's not my purpose. That's not what I'm supposed to embody. We all have a purpose. There's I mean, good luck trying to convince me otherwise. Like I'm ideologically motivated, like so to speak. But everybody has a purpose. Everybody fits into this war because this war is everywhere. Like these injustices are everywhere. I like to think about things in a meaningful way. And so this is me. Is like I think on a grandiose level a lot of the time. And there's something among what I've shared with you here. There's something to all this, right? There's something with like just the way that I talk, the way that I think about things, the direct experience that I've had with exploitation. It comes together to form my purpose here, my mission, which I'm still figuring out. But you know, I think it's grand and it's amazing. It's something I probably couldn't have ever expected or foreseen for myself. It's probably bigger than anything I could ever have thought of. And the same is true for you. Like this goes both ways, dog. Like I'm going to need your help on this. I would love if this video reached strangers, and I would love if by some miracle I actually was able to keep people's attention to talk about these meaningful things. But I'm open to criticism. I'm open to finding my life purpose as these pieces of my brain fall into place. There's something here. There's something beautiful here, and that's what I want to tell the world. Is I want to share the beauty that I've experienced in life. And yes, it is plagued by this darkness, and they go hand in hand, right? Because like I said, foolishness can almost just be described as caring righteously about all the good things on this list, but turning a blind eye to these core problems. This is what I wanted to share with you today. It's probably my longest video yet, which is great. But yeah, thank you for listening to me. I'm open to criticism. I'm open to connecting with people as well. If you share my sensibility in a way, if you think like me, like let's connect. Like I have things that we can talk about. Like I have projects we can get involved in. Don't rely on me or anything. Like obviously find your life purpose like now, like now, like fucking go do it. But this is what means the world to me. As chaotic as it sounds, as messy as it all is, this is what's truly meaningful to me, is our great shared purpose, our great shared work. So let's go into the world and let's embody this. Thank you. Oh gosh. Thank you for watching this.